All right, you, our knowledge-hungry listener, decided to send us a whole stack of material on abdominal pain. Looks like someone's been digging deep into the world of guts and glory.
You weren't kidding with that stack bit. But hey, we love a challenge, especially when it involves such a crucial part of the body. And you've really covered it all here, from EMT training manuals to those deep dives on specific conditions.
So no pressure. All right, just decode the mysteries of the human abdomen, all tied up in a neat little bow. But seriously, this is great because it tells us you're not just looking for a quick fix answer. You want a real grasp of what's happening in there.
Absolutely. And that's what makes this deep dive so interesting. You see, most people go through life with only a vague idea of what's actually happening inside their abdomen. But when it comes to pain, understanding that internal roadmap is key.
Right, because knowing what lives where helps you understand why certain pains might pop up in certain places. So walk us through this internal landscape. What are the major landmarks we should be aware of?
Well, you've got your heavy hitters, the solid organs like your liver, spleen, and kidneys, packed with blood vessels, these guys. Any injury to them can be serious business. We're talking potential shock and internal bleeding. Then you have your hollow organs like your stomach, intestines, and gallbladder. Now, perforation in one of these is bad news.
Like a leaky pipe situation, definitely not ideal.
Exactly. You really don't want those contents spilling out into your abdominal cavity.
And of course, no abdominal tour is complete without a visit to everyone's favorite intestinal offshoot, the appendix. Or should we say, the infamous appendix.
Ah, yes, the appendix, tucked away in the lower right abdomen, always lurking, often causing trouble. You know what I find really fascinating? This whole concept of referred pain. It's like your body's playing a cruel trick on you.
Referred pain. Okay, break it down for us. What's going on there?
It's when you feel pain in a completely different location than the actual source of the problem. One of your sources mentioned how gallbladder issues, for instance, can sometimes feel like shoulder pain.
Wait, seriously? How is that even possible? My gallbladder is nowhere near my shoulder.
It all comes down to how your nerves are wired. Sometimes the nerves from different areas of your body take similar paths to the brain, so the brain gets a bit confused about the origin of the signal, like a crossed wire. Your gallbladder is sending up a distress signal, but your brain interprets it as coming from your shoulder.
That is both incredibly cool and slightly terrifying. It makes you realize just how complex this whole system is.
Absolutely. It highlights why a good grasp of anatomy is so crucial when trying to make sense of abdominal pain. Things aren't always as straightforward as they seem.
All right, so we've got our anatomical map, but as we all know, things can go wrong. And you, dear listener, provided us with quite the syllabus of digestive disasters.
You're not wrong. Ulcers, gallstones, pancreatitis, we've got a whole lineup of usual suspects when it comes to those sudden, gotta lie down right now stomach aches.
Let's start with ulcers. I'll admit I used to think spicy food was the enemy, but I've heard that's a myth.
Yeah, time to put that one to rest. Spicy food might irritate an existing ulcer, sure, but it doesn't actually cause them. You see, your stomach lining has some pretty impressive defense mechanisms. What your sources highlight is that most ulcers are actually caused by either a bacterial infection, H. pylori being the main culprit, or long-term use of NSAIDs like ibuprofen or aspirin.
So it's bacteria or painkillers, not chilies, that are poking holes in my stomach lining. Interesting. What about gallstones? Those sound, well, not pleasant.
They can be quite debilitating. Imagine this. Tiny, hardened deposits forming in your gallbladder, sometimes even blocking the exit for bile, which is essential for digesting fats.
Oof. So you're saying when we indulge in those late night snacks, it's like our gallbladder is staging a revolt.
Something like that. That high-fat meal after midnight can definitely trigger some serious discomfort if your gallbladder is struggling.
Makes you want to rethink that second slice of pizza, huh?
Perhaps. But on a more serious note, let's talk about pancreatitis. You're right, the pancreas is incredibly important. It wears many hats, producing enzymes for digestion and hormones that regulate blood sugar.
And when it gets inflamed, things get painful.
Exactly. Inflammation of the pancreas, which can be triggered by things like gallstones, alcohol abuse, or other health conditions, causes intense pain, often radiating to the back. One of your articles mentioned a case study where a patient described it as a constant burning sensation.
Oh, that sounds awful. It makes you realize how interconnected everything is in there. You've got gallstones potentially triggering pancreatitis. It's a domino effect.
Precisely. And speaking of interconnectedness, what's really interesting is that your source material also delves into the role EMTs play in all of this. I mean, how do they even begin to tell these conditions apart, especially in the field with limited time and resources?
It's like they're medical detectives, right? Piecing together clues to solve the case of the agonizing abdomen.
Exactly. They're observing everything: location of the pain, how it feels, what makes it better or worse. Even the position a patient is lying in can be telling. For example, someone with appendicitis might draw up their right knee to ease the pain.
So even the way you're instinctively positioning your body can provide valuable information. That's fascinating.
Absolutely. And speaking of fascinating, it's important to remember that abdominal pain isn't always a result of something you ate or a digestive issue. Sometimes it can be a sign of something completely unexpected.
Okay, so buckle up, everyone, because we're going off the beaten path, exploring those instances where abdominal pain, well, it's not so straightforward.
You got it. Sometimes those aches and pains, they're like red herrings pointing us in the wrong direction.
Exactly, and your research really dug into that, didn't it? Give us some examples. What else could be setting off those internal alarm bells?
Well, we've got hernias, for one. Those can definitely cause some discomfort. And then there are kidney stones. Oh boy, those can be excruciating. That pain can really radiate from the abdomen.
Ouch, yeah, I've heard those are no joke.
Definitely not. But perhaps the most surprising culprit you dug up was the aorta.
Hold on, the aorta, that's a big one, right? The major artery running through the abdomen.
That's the one. And one of the most serious risks there is an aneurysm. You see, the aorta, it's like a large flexible tube carrying blood from the heart. And an aneurysm is a weak spot in that tube, causing it to bulge outward under pressure.
Okay, I'm picturing like a balloon inflating too much. And if
Yeah.
that balloon bursts, that's a life-threatening situation, isn't it?
It absolutely can be. A ruptured abdominal aortic aneurysm is a surgical emergency, no question. But here's where it gets really interesting. One of your sources highlighted the importance of back pain, particularly a tearing sensation, as a potential warning sign.
Really, so if you're feeling that kind of back pain, especially along with abdominal pain, that's a sign to call 911, not just pop a couple of ibuprofen.
Absolutely. Early detection is critical with aneurysms because if they rupture, every second counts.
Wow. Which makes those EMTs even more crucial, right? I mean, they're often the first on the scene in those situations.
Exactly. And your EMT training materials were spot on, highlighting the methods they use to make those critical decisions, often with very limited information. It's amazing what they can piece together just from observation and asking a few key questions.
It really is. It's like they're medical detectives, using their training and experience to solve the case.
That's a great way to put it. They're trained to pick up on those subtle cues that most of us wouldn't even notice. Everything from your skin color to how you're positioned, like we talked about earlier. For example, someone with a suspected aortic aneurysm might be lying very still, as any movement could worsen the pain. They're constantly piecing together the puzzle with every observation, every question, every vital sign.
That's reassuring to know that even in those high-pressure situations, there are skilled professionals trained to recognize those signs and get you the help you need. It really makes you appreciate just how complex abdominal pain can be. It's not always just a simple case of ate something bad, is it?
Not at all. It's a good reminder that our bodies are incredibly complex, and understanding the potential causes of abdominal pain, from the common to the unexpected, can be incredibly empowering.
Speaking of empowering, you, our listener, took a huge step in that direction by sending us all this material. You've gained a deeper understanding of your own anatomy, the common culprits behind belly aches, and even the crucial role EMTs play in those urgent situations. And hopefully you've also gained an appreciation for the fact that sometimes what feels like a straightforward pain can be a sign of something a little more complex. So if you're experiencing any of these symptoms, don't hesitate to reach out to a medical professional.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Knowledge is power, but it's the application of that knowledge that truly makes a difference.
Well said. And on that note, dear listener, we're going to wrap up this deep dive into the world of abdominal pain. We've covered a lot of ground today, from basic anatomy to some pretty surprising potential causes. But remember, this was just a starting point. There's always more to learn, more to explore.
That's the beauty of a deep dive, isn't it? Opens up a whole new world of understanding.
It really does. So until next time, keep asking questions, keep learning, and most importantly, take care of yourself.